Okay, welcome to this podcast. So today I've got Hailey Coleman with me, who is the psychic nervous systems coach, which I thought was a really cool title, actually, the way you kind of framed that. So this kind of talks about individuals that have been overwhelmed and been through anxiety, I guess, and different things, and kind of moved into what we term, I guess, as kind of survival mode. I know you talk about this on your website too, Hayley. So survival mode is this kind of calm, clarity, and intuitive confidence. So drawing from your own journey, really, through the traumas that you've been through and kind of emotional overwhelm, you combine sort of nervous system regulation with psychic insight, which I think is really cool, to kind of create this lasting transformation. So, do you want to give me sort of a quick intro as to yourself, who you are, and the starting point, really?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a unique way to coach my clients. I've always been a psychic, and so has my family for years. Um, and then I had some really rough lived through trauma that made me want to kind of educate myself on our nervous system, how to regulate ourselves, how to understand our body, our mind, our soul. So I went and did the education route and did the whole cognitive behavioral therapy and mastered some mental health stuff and some addiction stuff so that I can apply that to my coaching. And then I paired that with my psychic stuff, and it's been a fascinating journey. Um, I haven't come across anyone else who does the psychic and the nervous system regulation together, but yeah, I'm excited to share what that means.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to sort of to start the whole podcast off, really, because I think so many people jump straight in, but when you've been through trauma, and I think everyone probably has been through trauma by the time they get to kind of middle age, we've all had past relationships and childhood and parent problems and all the things that we all go through generally, and that kind of sort of dovetails into the expression of who we are. And I guess when we go through sort of severe trauma in the way that you talk about it, and the way you've experienced it, then you have to find that path yourself. And I think that's what made me, what kind of reason I was drawn to your bio really, is I thought this is a fantastic kind of had the problem, experienced it, lived through it, and then sort of popped out the other side, and then is now teaching and helping people to work through theirs, which is like an end-to-end conversation, really.
Yeah, when we were going through the trauma, it was quite horrific, me and my children. Um, and they were my why. And I just wanted to fully understand how to heal at an internal level without medication. I didn't want to go on medication. I didn't want my kids to go on medication. And that's what a lot of the Western doctoring does. They're like, oh, well, you have anxiety and your kid has anxiety. And I was like, well, we've been through a lot and we don't really want to go on medication. So, um, yeah, we went through some dark times, and it was not any of our fault, and it was due to human that is unhealed. And yeah, I just really, really want to understand for myself as well as my kids, how do we move through that trauma and regulate ourselves so that we're not in a constant state of stress and sorrow and feeling so low. And it was really, really fascinating. I poured myself into different educations, one of them being an ancient breathwork study. I was kind of taught by some Buddhists, and that was fascinating. Just some really cool ancient movements and work with our breath to move that energy. Um, and then applied that with my background in addictions and mental health and how I can utilize cognitive behavioral therapy around that. Um, I'm not sure if most people know what cognitive behavioral therapy is, but essentially we're retraining our brain, retraining our mindset. Um, and so I wanted to understand how I could also rewire my nervous system. And it led me to coaching clients from around the world, um, and both my psychic gift as well as my background in all this education that I poured myself into so I can understand what I was going through, as well as all the trauma. So yeah, we are way past the trauma and just healing every day, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear, actually. It's nice to hear a success story because, again, there's so many people, and I'm sure people listening to this podcast and that are being drawn to this conversation are in that same or on that same path. They're in part of the path whereby things break down, traumas happen between people, relationships, and then it's kind of you find yourself in this very anxious state for most people. And anxiety is a really difficult thing to live with on a day-to-day basis. And that then kind of bleeds into, as you said, really sort of living in this constant state of survival mode, really, where we're just trying to get through every day. We don't really see kind of an end to that effectively. So when you talk about the sort of nervous system running the show, how does kind of being stuck in survival mode sort of block someone from hearing the true intuitive guidance, do you think?
Um, when you learn about the understanding of how our brain works in survival mode, it actually shuts down a lot of different parts of itself in order for us to physically survive. So we don't need intuition when we're literally just trying to survive. And that's the easiest way I can put it is when we're in that much of a trauma state, it physically just shuts down certain aspects of itself. And it's really interesting that it can do that. I think it's pretty cool that our brain has that ability to say, like, we don't need this, this, and this. All we need to do today is walk and breathe and have a heartbeat. But it can be like that for a very long time. And so I have a lot of clients who've experienced that disassociation, or they say they don't have a purpose anymore, or they just lacking their want to be creative or like find their happy again. And that is kind of an understanding of it's not your fault. Like your brain has purposely blocked that so that you can survive, but you can get it back. And all of my clients have gotten it back and have become their best selves again. Um, and the common thing is regulating our nervous system, figuring out how to respond to that stress response. Um, because if we don't, it can be hugely detrimental. And a lot of people don't realize that if we don't tackle our stress, it can lead to debilitating mental health issues and chronic health conditions that could be fatal.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing as well, Haley, that when we're in that state, of course, as you say, it's kind of fight or flight, isn't it? Your body's in this just keep me alive mode, really. And that means that we're functioning, but we're not really living effectively. And we all kind of look to live and live our best lives and find some sort of peace and happiness. So does meditation, or did meditation play into that for you? Was that quite a big part of the early part of your kind of recovery, really?
Yeah, meditation does work, but it's almost, you need to start focusing on rewiring your nervous system before you implement those tools, like before you implement the journaling, the meditation, the calming activities, like the spas and all. Like you see a lot of people on social media like, oh, well, I meditate every day, but I still see my therapist all the time. Or I do me days and I do self care days, but I'm still having anxiety every day. It's like if you don't understand the source and don't go to the core of why this is happening and how this is happening, those tools don't fully work until you start rewiring the nervous system. Um, the way you rewire the nervous system is through breath work. Um, Simple breathwork techniques, which I teach all of my clients, which are absolutely so easy. Um, and then also humming. I'm not sure if you've heard of
I've
that,
not,
but
no, I've not heard of humming. Actually,
oh,
laughing.
it's so cool. So humming triggers our vagus nerve, and our vagus nerve is the one thing that can reset our nervous system very quickly. Um, and so when we hum, It actually shuts off our overthinking brain. And you pick a song that you know the lyrics to. For me, I pick Christmas songs because they're like embedded in our soul, like the lyrics. Um, and you just hum the song for at least 1 to 3 minutes. And it totally resets you from a spiraling mindset. It can reset you from anxiety. And but then we also need to remember the other basics like sunshine, going outside and feeling the wind on our skin, walking outside, the repetitive motion of hearing yourself walk for a little while is a rhythmic that actually calms us, which is really cool. Like those are so simple, right? But our lives are so busy in society that a lot of people forget to put their face in the sun or do you hear that wind or do you hear those birds? Like all your senses. And it's so simple, but so many people just don't do it.
Yeah, it's a great way to frame that as well. I think this is the problem that you've kind of captured really, that in society, from my viewpoint, everyone's looking for quick fixes to things, and everyone's turning to technology and apps and phones, and I think we've forgotten as a society really that let's kind of turn the tech off and go back to, as you just said, go and walk in the woods and just sit down and take a picnic for a few hours and just decompress, disconnect from everybody and everything. Well, I sort of find, in the way that we do things, we're working psychically and talking to spirit guides and clearing clients on a daily basis, and that energy can be quite heavy. So for me, I
Yeah.
just go and sit outside for an hour and just do nothing, leave the phone in, and just watch the birds as they're flying around the garden and they're picking up food and
Yeah.
going about their life, and you sort of get distracted and realize that nature's still continuing to live. It doesn't need any of this kind of additional tech and distraction. And animals, I think we can learn so much from watching how they exist and what they do, and they're just focused on what they're doing for that moment, really. And nature and walking, out in a field, on a beach, somewhere outside without the tech, I think is one of the key things to bring us back to who we are, really.
Yeah. And I even heard someone say, well, I go for walks every day, but I put my music in. Like, which is great, you're moving your body, but what if you went for walks without music? And honestly, like, just listen to your feet. Like, it is a full reset of your nervous system, hearing that rhythmic, like, footprint on the ground, and also being able to hear maybe the cars, all your senses. You're not blocking it with headphones and whatever music you're listening to, even if it's calming music. I just challenge people to do that all the time because it's like, being like even just sitting outside or here I'm in Canada and our winters are awful and like minus 40 some days. And so on those days we still get bright sun. And so I'm like a cat. I'll like sit in the window and like put my face in the sun with my eyes closed for like 10, 15 minutes because it's too cold to go outside, but it works. And it's the simple things and people just forget about it. um Even like I'm gonna tell your audience about a really cool strategy. So I call it the bathroom technique. So we all go to the bathroom, I want to say on average 10 times a day, and it's a private space. So I challenge my clients to, when they go into the washroom and the door's shut, I want them to stand there and either stare at the tap or close their eyes and put one hand on their heart. Um, but make sure you're pressing hard enough so you can feel your heartbeat, and your other hand on your belly. And you are going to do 10 deep and slow belly breaths. And I challenge my clients to do this every single time they go to the washroom. It takes 30 seconds, but that one act of breath work resets my clients, I want to say, for 30 to 60 minutes, and it's just a reset, a grounding technique, and it just totally like allows them to go back out to whatever they're doing, whether it's being a mom or at the job or wherever. um, and it just allows you to have that extra hour of calm in your system, and that also is teaching your nervous system how to rewire itself.
Yeah, I've not heard of that. Actually, I'll give that a try. I probably go to the bathroom about 20 times a day, so I reckon I'll be
There
in
you
there
go.
for a while.
You're going to be very zen.
Yeah, but it's a good idea. Again, it's trying to disconnect, isn't it, from what's going on? And
Mhm.
we're all so busy. We've got so many things to do, and again, I think that the tech is a problem really because most people take
Yeah,
their phone to the bathroom. So whilst they're in the bathroom, they're on their phone and they're surfing social media or they're working, or we've got to kind of try and disconnect from again the technology really and getting back to who we are as people because we kind of forget that if you rewind sort of 15, 20 years ago there weren't mobile phones. The phone was the wired thing in the house that you used to have to come in and sit at the bottom of the stairs and talk to your mates and people and family, of course. And of course, if you were out somewhere, there was no method to get hold of anybody until you came home. Whereas now we're
yeah.
kind of available 24/7 to everybody. And when people message us on social media and messenger apps, they're expecting an instant reply. And I think that's what's driving this anxiety and kind of social trauma, I think, really, for some people.
That's a really good way of putting it because, yeah, like as a kid, we socialized, like my parents would say, when the street lights come on, you guys get home, right? And we were just playing with all the neighborhood kids outside. Um, we never like now kids do gaming and stuff, and there's a huge increase in kids' mental health. And even since COVID, like I find a lot of kids are lacking social skills. They just don't know how to be around kids, and they had that fear put in them in school about being in crowds, and you're seeing it a little bit now. Um, and you're seeing a lot of mental health with youth, which is so scary. um, so if we can even teach our kids how to do certain breath work, or hey, you're really frustrated today, why don't you sit in your room and hum your favorite song for 5 minutes, like simple things like that will help them just be a regulated adult and be able to like work through hard moments.
Yeah, and I think it's really good that you've brought this back to younger people, really, because we tend to think when we talk about trauma, we talk about the things we were talking about earlier, we tend to see that as adults, people like ourselves, but we forget that a lot of children are coming from split marriages, are going through their own versions of trauma. And I think, as you said, really gaming is a huge problem. Obviously, with the
Mhm.
way that we work, we work with clients that have generally some sort of interference in their field, and quite often we see young children or sort of teenagers that spend hours on the technology and especially gaming because when they game, generally they're playing war games, so they're
Yeah.
effectively
Yeah.
killing people really. So, but of course, the subconscious doesn't know the difference between being killed and killing someone else and the fact you're playing a game. So it thinks it's real, and that's why these children end up with becoming so enraged and anger, and they think the subconscious part of them is going through the experience of being at war and all of the adrenaline and stress as though it was real. But of course, they're playing a game, but their body or their subconscious doesn't know the difference, and that, of course, then attracts negativity. So, I know my son when he used to play certain games that involve lots of shooting, he'd be upstairs swearing, and we'd go up and say, "Look, what you doing?" Oh, well, you're about to lose. So in the end, I'd walk downstairs and just turn the router off and just say, "Look, we're not having it." Basically, your behaviour doesn't fit in the household's energy, and you're bringing in a lot of this negative anger-based vibration, and you're supposed to be enjoying a game because it's a game, it's not real. But they get so kind of caught up in these things, and I think, like you say, that must then start driving internal trauma for these younger children, teenagers.
Yeah, I with my one of my kids, they get very caught up with gaming, to the point where I've taken it away for a month at a time. I only allow them to play one certain game if it's on a weekend because they get like super into it, and then it's like we've had many conversations where it's like, if you can't control yourself during this game, you won't play this game anymore. But it's a reality for so many parents now. And it's so important that if we're going to teach our kids how to be calm and how to regulate themselves, we need to learn how to regulate ourselves as parents first. And then we need to be able to recognize the signs of what triggers our kids. And gaming and scrolling on cell phones trigger our kids. It would trigger us too. So I think it's like kind of like a circle effect where if we can teach ourselves and then the kids watch us do it. So, like, for example, I mean, I've been doing this for a while, but now with my kids, if they're being naughty and it's frustrating for me, I usually say, "You're really frustrating me. I'm going to go and do my breath work in the bathroom, or I'm going to go to my bedroom and I'm going to calm myself down because you're making me mad." But they're watching me do that, right? Or I'm going to go shower or I'm going to go exercise because you are triggering me. But using words and then applying the words to your actions, the kids watch everything. So like now, I sometimes find my kids will be like, I'm having a bad day, so I'm gonna do some exercise. And I was like, that's so cute. Or my little guy, I can hear him doing some breath work in his room sometimes when he's frustrated. But they're watching you. So if you vocalize like, mom's mad because of your behavior, so I'm gonna go calm myself by doing this, then they're like watching and learning, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing as well. I think again, so many parents are going through that same experience whereby they're trying to create a kind of a calm space to live in as a household, and then we've got people that are coming in, family and children that come in with different vibration, anger, negativity, rage because they're playing games or they've lost a game, even worse. And then it's like, how do you manage them? But as you say, they have to learn to manage themselves. That is the key thing, really. And that again is a technique. There are techniques that I think should be being taught in schools for children to take themselves out, switch off the tech, take some downtime, maybe do a quick meditation or breath work, as you say, or just something that you can actually bring them back to. That was a game. This is reality. And also, we're not having that behavior in a household that has other people, because your energy is going to affect our energy, and we're trying to make a calm, stable, loving place to live. And if that's not the case, then that doesn't really work for the rest of the family either, really.
It's really fascinating, and I think parents just need to, if we can work on ourselves first and then it showcases around the children, then we're also more healed and more patient, and we can dissolve the big emotions from our kids too. Because when I wasn't working on myself, I had very little patience, and I know like a lot of parents struggle with that. Um, I also had a lot of lacking of patience with, let's say, coworkers or different people in the community because I just wasn't calm until I started working on my nervous system. And I have people say all the time, like, I just want to be around you because you're just this super calm energy all the time. And you just always seem to like have it together. And I was like, thank you. I've worked on that for years. But
Yeah.
it's true, right? Because I know like you walk in a room and you don't want to be around that person who's like hyper and antsy and just like kind of angry. Like you kind of draw away from that human. You are more drawn to someone who's positive and friendly and calm. But that takes work. And the first thing to do is to learn how to utilize breath work within 1 to 3 minutes a day to start rewiring your nervous system.
That was my next question, really, that you kind of covered so well. So, for someone that's constantly overwhelmed and anxious, stressed, hassled, so the first step from your perspective to kind of regain control of their own internal state and reconnect back to themselves is breath work from your point of view, really.
Yes, it's a really easy way to reset yourself. That's why that like that bathroom technique where you're either focused on the tap or with your eyes closed, with your hand on your heart and your other hand on your belly. Do those 10 slow, deep breaths every single time you go to the bathroom and watch your day change. Like you're going to feel so calm. You're going to be able to tackle more things with more patience. You're going to eventually have your symptoms go away. You're going to eventually have, more time to do things for yourself in terms of you're going to get that sparkle back and you're going to want to do more things that make you happy. But you have to start with rewiring your nervous system. And that bathroom technique, like honestly, every single time you go to the bathroom, take 10 to 30 seconds to do those breaths. Um, and I say bathroom because it's a private space and we go often. And it's just like I was on a podcast with doctors and I was like, why don't you do this bathroom technique? Because once you leave the bathroom, it's chaos again, right?
Mm.
People are pulling at you left, right, and center. You're trying to heal people. One of them are like emergency doctors. And I'm like, every single time you go to the bathroom, take that time. It's your private moment, right? And it's just something so simple we can do for ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll be trying when we leave this podcast. That's my first thing really, and I'll drop you a message and say I'm
Yeah.
super calm. So in our work, we talk a lot about sovereignty, sort of spiritual sovereignty, energetic sovereignty, and sovereignty generally, really. So how does nervous system kind of regulation, in the way that you explain things, kind of help someone reclaim their own personal power and boundaries, do you think?
Once you are starting to rewire your nervous system, you get your intuition back. You get a little bit more confident and courageous, and you are more likely to set boundaries for yourself. A lot of my clients need to learn how to trust themselves again. And the first thing I say is set a boundary for self. For example, one of my clients always says sorry for no reason. And it's just like, now let's set that boundary. So we're doing our breath work every day. We're really working on resetting ourselves. Why don't we set that boundary where you don't say sorry? And that's for self because you didn't do anything wrong. And once that client was able to like actively stop saying sorry, they felt so empowered to just be themselves and not be a yes person all the time and pleasing people and just like they just felt so powerful and proud of themselves. And it's the simple things like that, right? Or if you're a yes person, why are you saying yes all the time? If it doesn't serve you, why are you saying yes? So setting those boundaries for self so you can trust yourself again. And essentially all this work that I do with my clients is to get them to be the best versions of themselves again.
Well, at that point, I guess, Hayley, is that when their intuition starts to refire and kick back in? Because intuition is that kind of spiritual gift that we all have, that we know what's right, we know what's wrong, we know where we are intuitively and what we should be doing. Most people, I think, override that with their conscious mind and the
Mhm.
societal overlays or religious or family overlays that have been placed on people. So, do you think it's really important to get back to a place that you start to work with your own intuition and push
Yeah.
aside everybody else's expectation?
100%. Because if you are not focusing on self and getting your intuition back and getting your boundaries back and your awareness back, you aren't going to be the best version of yourself. You're constantly going to be in that rat race or pleasing people or neglecting self. And, like with intuition, you need to have awareness. You need to be able to pause and not have fear-based thoughts and not worry about other people's thoughts and feelings. You need to be in tune with yourself. But that can't happen like biologically it can't happen if we're in a constant state of like survival. So to be your best version of yourself and to get your intuition back and your gifts back and your sparkle back and your purpose back, you got to just work on rewiring your nervous system. And it's so simple.
Perfect. So, in terms of your own, Carl, you talk about your psychic insight. Could you just sort of frame that for us in terms of how that came online, how you sort of learned to trust your psychic self, and the way that you kind of developed yourself in that way, really?
Yeah, I've always had a psychic gift. When I was younger, my dreams would come true. My thoughts would come true. And I really started to practice and dabble with it. I worked with a long-term psychic as a mentor so that I can learn how to shut it on and shut it off as needed because it was starting to bother me in public because I would want to like do these psychic readings on strangers instead of just enjoying myself in those outings. So when I learned how to channel um, it properly and shut it off when needed, I call it tuning in. Um, I was really able to like focus on my gift itself. And I decided, so in order to trust my gift, I decided for, I want to say about a year of just doing random psychic readings for people, not friends or family. Um, and having them give testimonials so that and I could see how accurate I was. And so I didn't actually start charging for my sessions until I was 100% accurate with every single reading. And that's just how I worked for myself in terms of trusting my gift and understanding how I can utilize my gift. Um, for me, I utilize my main spirit guide, my master guide, to talk to other masters. Um, so if people aren't aware of that, I always say, and you can challenge me on this because we're all different, but I always say we have a wall of spirit guides, whether they're past or present or um, entities at a soul level, and I find that we have a master guide that guides us in chapters of our lives, and so I utilize my master guide, and whoever I'm having a psychic reading with, I channel their master guide. Um, and their master guide is able to give me the past, present, or future clarity or direction that the person's seeking.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to say it, actually. I mean, I work in the same way. So I have Chen is my master guide. It's who I talk to all the time. It's who we work with and do everything with. So for you to try and get connection to your master guide, was that a journey, or was that an intuitive thing from birth, really? Or how did that kind of come online, really, for you?
Um, I kept having, my master guide at the time was Charlie Smith. He is a past family member, multiple generations. Um, and at that time, I just always felt this like lovely, warm male presence around me consistently. And I would start seeing figures and I started asking, well, if you are my guide, please share with me this. And he was very like he liked electronics and energy. So like I would go in a room and things would flicker. Um, and then I went into a mastermind of understanding different tools and modalities on how to channel guides. And I fell in love with the pendulum in my very beginning of learning how to channel. And with my pendulum work, I just started asking all the questions and discovered his name, and then went to my dad and my nana and said, okay, so here's Charlie Smith from this year, and this is what he looks like, and this is what he did. And I was like, I believe he's our family. And we found him in our family tree. And then it was like floodgates opening. Charlie's still with me, but I have Margaret right now, who's yeah, she's spicy. She's like the fire under me that's like just do those things. And then Charlie's like my like lovely like grandfather figure. So I have a really interesting combination right now.
Lovely.
I'm not sure if you're picking up on either of them right now, but they're both so different, both totally different time frames, both family at some point, which is kind of cool.
That is lovely to hear, actually. I think that's the thing. When we start to develop ourselves psychically and we actually reconnect to spirit guides and especially family members, it kind of enhances our life because then we do have this open channel then to spirit, basically, and we can talk to spirit, we can connect with them, we can get advice and guidance. And as you say, you start to use those sort of intuitive gifts to work for you. And then, of course, that means you're working with and for other people as well, which is really cool. So, in terms of when you work with a client, are they kind of giving you advice, or you just sort of, are you hearing that, or do you see that kind of psychically or clairvoyantly?
So I always ask my clients if they're either booking a psychic session, which is a one-time session, or they're booking it with me as a 12-week private coaching. But I ask them first if they want me to utilize my gift or more of my science evidence-based background. Most of them have asked me to use my gift in coaching them. And I really love utilizing it to give them clarity and guidance. So I specialize in trauma, relationships, addictions, mental health, nervous system support. So whatever my client is coming with to me for support in the 12 weeks, every week that we have like a video or phone session, I will do my channeling as well. And so the questions they have that they want insight on, so that they can keep moving in a forward direction, in an aligned direction, I utilize my gift to channel whether that's a good clarity, a good direction. I love using my gift to help people understand their trauma, especially childhood trauma. I've had some wild things happen utilizing my gift for that. I have a gift to see scenes with like a bird eye view, and so I can describe the scene and who's in it and what they're doing, and um, yeah, like crime scenes I've seen, and it's just really cool. Uh, those those clients had childhood trauma that I want to say their brain blocked a lot of the specifics from the trauma. And they had a really hard time understanding what happened to them. Like they knew deep down something happened roughly the time frame, but their brain blocked a lot of the data that came with it. And so as adults, these clients were triggered consistently, whether in their relationships or with family members or different scenes. And so it was a really cool experience being able to work with those individuals, um, utilizing my gift to say, well, actually, it was when you were 5, and this is what happened and how it happened. And this is, like just unraveling the unknown, because individuals with trauma, I have found, if there's unknown circumstances, it's almost impossible for them to move forward and heal. So that was a really cool experience for me to be. I felt honored to be able to help all those clients move forward with that.
Yeah, it's a lovely way to explain it as well, really. I mean, again, I think when people go through extreme trauma, especially abuse, sexual, primarily in childhood, we sort of find with our clients quite often that, again, it's a protected mechanism that the conscious mind kind of blocks out and almost disassociates the personality, really. And then you have this kind of the conscious part that's here today that doesn't know what happened in the past because it was painful and it was traumatic. And then, of course, there is, as you say, that link that the same patterns get replayed that connect back to the trauma and the emotion, of course, but then it's not being dealt with really. So, do you sort of believe that unresolved trauma for those sorts of people could also make people vulnerable to sort of negative or unseen energetic influence? How does that tend to show up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of these individuals are weak energetically, I want to say. Not their fault. They're just struggling. And it makes them almost more victimized or easy to prey on in terms of unhealed individuals who are monsters of a human. Um, you find a lot of individuals that have unresolved trauma are have like repeat patterns or addictions or mental health or toxic relationships, where they find themselves almost reliving it as adults. Um, and it's sad because as a society, we're not taught to, I want to say a lot, like old school society was sweep it under the rug. Right. So a lot of the clients that came to me said, well, I told my parents about that trauma and they did nothing. So now I'm not heard, I'm not seen, I'm not valued. This trauma did happen, but now I'm being told that it didn't, or don't worry about it. We don't want to talk about it. And so that is another layer of trauma being thought about, that maybe it didn't happen. Maybe I'm the crazy one. And as a kid, the courage to tell your parents or a safe space person who you thought that something negative happened to you, and it for it to be swept under the rug, or said they don't believe them, like that's a another layer of trauma. And so I've found that clients as adults who've come to me are in toxic relationships with their partner, toxic relationships with their family, have friends that are toxic, and it's just like a repeat pattern because deep down they don't feel worthy. And so we unravel that and we work through that so they are empowered again and feel powerful enough to have the confidence to rebuild their life, rebuild their environment, people, place, thing, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So do you map that into past lives as well? Is that something that you kind
Yes.
of cover? Because of course we've all had lots of past lives, and when
Yes.
things have happened to you in a past life, then of course it overlays into this life. So one of the things I used to laugh about really, and still do quite often, is the whole spider conversation. Because you can have people that basically are absolutely, frightened of spiders, yet they've never been bitten by one. They've never had a problem with one. In the UK, over here, nothing kills you really. So we don't have poisonous spiders that are going to do those things. So you do have to wonder, where's that trauma come from? It must be a past life somewhere that's overlaid into this life, because the actual trauma or the worry or concern or fear has to be rooted in, connected to an emotion somewhere from a past life. So you obviously cover that too.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that have I put in the past life work if they don't know where their symptoms or their trauma is coming from. So we'll do some past life sessions. An example of one was a client had a really horrific finger pain, like for years. No injury, no childhood injury, no adult injury, and it just bothered them all the time, to the point where, like, day-to-day life tasks, their finger was so much in pain and they've gone to different doctors, they couldn't figure it out. So we did some past life sessions, and it actually, we discovered that in a past life they had stole something and someone chopped their finger off. And when we discovered that, a week later she messaged me, she's like, my pain's gone. I was like, because we've solved it. So it blows my mind. Like, I love this stuff. I could I could do this stuff every day.
Well, you do it every day.
Yeah, I just want more of it, you know? I
Yeah,
just, it's so cool. It's so cool. And then having the clients like come back to me like that phantom pain or those symptoms or that worry, like gone,
yeah, because
right?
it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you've had a past life injury that carries forward into this life, then that's going to be in your field basically. And if it was a very traumatic thing or something that really affected you, then and then of course it's you haven't got a connection to it emotionally and through conscious awareness now, but it's still there in the field. And just by talking about it and reliving it and bringing it back up through a past life meditation or conversation, it just releases the frequency and then everything changes.
Absolutely. Like even for myself, one of my past lives, I have the coolest, like I can watch it like an old movie at this point. And I used to heal wounded soldiers in a, I want to say some sort of hut in the forest. So I would walk through the town with my like stuff hidden under bread, and I would like sneak into this like path and treat these men at night, and heal them so that nobody could figure out that I was healing, because they weren't our men. Like they were, I would heal whoever. So the ones they were fighting against, I would still heal them. So it was pretty hush hush. And once I discovered that, and I was in a conference and some Native American medicine man came to me and he said, "You need to," I forget the way he worded it, but essentially saying, use your voice. This is your lifetime to use your voice now. Like you're going to have the masses come to you from all over the world to heal them. Start using your voice. And he did a prayer song on me. And then between that and understanding one of my past lives, I decided I don't care who judged me or whatever. I'm going to start speaking about spirituality and past lives and healing. And I'm going to heal the masses and I'm going to speak and I'm going to be on stages and I'm going to start on podcasts. And this was years ago. And I just told my kids, I was like, I told myself I was going to be on podcasts and years ago. And now I am. And I'm like one of the top 1% every month for the last 2 months on Podmatch as a podcast guest. And I'm just like, I needed to heal that wound and I needed to like now shout it from the rooftops. I'm going to heal people and I don't care what people think.
And I think that's the empowering part of this conversation for me, really, Hayley, is that I think when we step into our power and we don't care about other people and what people think, and we speak our truth with integrity, people pick up on that. When you're talking to someone, I'm talking to you, and you know you're talking to an authentic person that has the passion, the right energy, the frequency. You've been there, you've done these things, and you're willing to help other people. But to do that, sometimes we do have to put our head above the parapet a bit, really. And it does mean that you are going to get a bit of negative backlash by the people that are not aligned with the things you talk about and say. But it comes back to boundaries again, representing yourself in the way you want to be, saying the things that you believe. And not everyone has to agree with anything any of us say, really. But I think when you do that, that's when you become authentic to who you actually are. And that is obviously, that part of the journey that you're in now, which is wonderful.
Thank you. I'm excited for this journey. I'm excited to speak to individuals like you and just, share my wisdom in hopes that even one listener will start doing that breath work and within a week just feel like a better version of themselves or hear my story of hitting rock bottom and pushing through and helping others and maybe they want to start doing the same or leaving that toxic relationship. I just want to keep sharing my story. And as time goes on, I can share more and more of my trauma. But as of now, I can only share certain parts of it. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's a personal journey for you as well, isn't it? So, I mean, it's inspiring. I'm listening to you. The things you've said have inspired me to go off and sit in the toilet and try the breath work. So I'll do that afterwards. But again, when people listen to these podcasts and hear the things that you say and the things that you do, and the fact that you say that with passion and with integrity, like you say, other people at the start of the journey that you were at years ago, and then all they have to do is listen to someone like yourself say, that was me. I was there, but look where I am now. You can also get here, and you can be on stage, and you can be doing podcasts. And I think most of us that are on our spiritual path look back at the life that we're living and never believed that we'd end up doing the things we are now, because it's just this slow, sequential kind of journey. But effectively, I think it's a place to be grateful to be able to kind of inspire other people and help other people in any way that we can, really. Because if you look at kind of the world as it stands today, and we all know there's crazy things going on, really,
Yeah.
which I've kind of detached from all of that. I just think it's not my reality, so I'm not living it effectively. So I don't tend to connect to the media and the news, and I just
Yeah, me neither.
wake up, do my day, that kind of thing. And I think, again, this is where people like yourself, have this. There's a huge requirement to come online and be that person that stands up and be the light for other people. Because when we start to do that, other people get turned on and kind of inspired,
Oh,
don't
excuse
they?
me.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. I just want to heal the masses and help. Hmm. Speaking of my voice, right?
Exactly. So, in terms of how do people find you, Hayley, give us your kind of best method to get in
Huh.
contact with you, website, social
I don't
media,
I
links.
don't even have a cough. I don't even know what's happening. Um, yeah, so I created a landing page on my website. So anyone listening to a podcast, excuse me, can type their name and email, and in my comment, just write podcast. And I'm giving away complimentary quick sessions to help them. And that's at www.hailey-coleman.com. So I'll give that to you for the notes.
Perfect.
Oh my
That's great.
goodness. As
You've
I
been
say,
stopped
like
from
from a
talking.
past life, I needed to share my voice, and now Spirit's like, okay, like we get it.
Exactly. So really, your website is the best place. Do you have kind of Facebook, social media, those sorts of things, or
Oh
does
my
everything kind
goodness.
of work off your website, really?
I'm gonna have a little sip of my
Yeah, I'll
drink.
have some
But
water.
yes,
I've got my peppermint tea.
mm, yeah, thank you. I'm drinking my energy drink. Sorry.
No gin
Okay.
and tonic, though, then, Hailey.
No, no, not today. Um, Yeah, so I do a lot of my stuff on Instagram, but I do also have Facebook and TikTok. But my Instagram handle is live.empower. That's the main one I use. But mostly, if you're interested in learning more and getting an understanding of what you are going through or have gone through, um, I suggest going to my website and then just typing your name, email, and the reason. Maybe you're just inquiring about how to start understanding yourself, or being the best version of yourself, or understanding your trauma or relationships or whatever it may be. Maybe it's even helping your kids, right? um, yeah, I would go to my website and just type that in. I will privately message you back and start the process of gifting you some strategies. So
Perfect. That's wonderful. And I'll make sure when we finish this, we'll pop this on our Facebook channel. It goes out on various podcast platforms like Spotify, Amazon, um, Apple, Deezer, the whole rest of them, and YouTube. So I'll make sure that all of your links are in all of our details, basically, so people can find you, people can reach out, and uh, and it's been great talking to you, Hailey.
thank you. You too.
Yes,
Anytime you want to talk about cool past life spirit stuff, I'm all here for that.
well, that was why I kind of loved your bio, really. I read your bio and I thought you're going to align with what we do and our version of things. And the psychic nervous system coach kind of has that ring to it as well, doesn't it, really? That,
I
you
know, because it's like the nervous system, we all need to support it. We all need to work on it. Even if we're feeling good, it's still so important. But then being able to have my gift to unravel certain things would give you clarity and direction. It's just another layer of healing. And it collapses time with my clients.
perfect. Well, thank you for that, Haley. I've enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully, everyone listening to will. And it's been lovely to meet you, even though you had the coughing fit, which obviously is supposed to happen for some reason, because
Yes.
these things do and are. And also, I think that's one of the things for me is that when we do these things, it is live, authentic, and that it's not pre-recorded. There's no kind of staged conversation. We just kind
No,
of coffee talk it out, really. So it's been great.
you get all of me in a cough attack, so we're good.
Perfect. Yeah, it's normally me that does that actually. So it's quite nice to see someone else.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. We have a good rest of your well, it's your evening now, I suppose, isn't it, over there?
Yeah, well, thank you. It was so nice meeting you.
Yeah, it's been
And
great.
yeah, I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
Yeah, we'll catch up again, definitely. All right, Haley, you take care.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good day.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.